Hi, Orange Girl here with another scrapbooking process video for you, and this is day 25 of my December daily. I'm so excited that I completed all the way to Christmas. First year ever. That is totally something to celebrate. So, I had an idea on this day, which this is like one of the only times that I really had something in my head that I wanted to do before I started. So I set up my journaling so that I'd have these four different things, and I'll get to what they say in a moment. And what I'm trying to do is decide. Okay, so here was the first problem. So I really wanted. I had already set up at the beginning of the season a bunch of papers that I thought I would use, and I went ahead and punched holes in them. So the one that is on the left, I had punched holes in that one, but already, but I intended for it to be used on the other side. And so the holes don't match up. And I kind of showed that there for a second. And so that was a problem. So what I decided to do was cover up the holes and add a little bit of this striped paper to make it kind of go across the page. That said, the way the striped paper is cut, I didn't have another strip that would match up, so I had to piece it together. And it's not perfect, but when you see it all finalized and together, you really can't tell the difference all that much. You just don't notice it, I guess, is what I mean. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to line it up as best as I can and line up those stripes so that they're going off the edge a little bit so that I can just cut those off. And there will be a part where they do not meet in the middle, but that's okay because my photo that you see there on the right is going to go all the way across the page. It is the same size as the page. And so it's like 4¼ inches. So, like that. So it just totally covers that up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zip that down using what I mean by that is I'm going to use my sewing machine and just zip across it a few times to give a little bit of messy stitching to hold that down, but also to kind of emphasize it because I thought it kind of looked cool. And then I can re-punch the holes for both pages before I get started with the rest of my design. So I have this thing that I made at the very beginning that's kind of like right there, it's kind of like a model, or it's perfect, and I just use it as a template. That's what I was looking for. And it says top right side on it. So that is where I put it because the holes aren't exactly symmetrical, so there's a little bit of give there. So anyway, so what I did in the very beginning was I set it up so that these were all the same width, each of these four little pieces of writing. What the writing is I asked my family, including myself and my one true love and B, I asked what was their favorite part of Christmas Day. And then I typed it up. And my idea is I'm going to put joy is above each one of those. So there's the stamp that says joy is, and I want to do that. So this is the other side. And so I went ahead and typed my journaling right on my photograph before I printed it out. So the journaling on the left says, and it's on the photograph, says Christmas morning. And then in quotes it says, I got a box. Followed by a giggle was heard each time B opened a gift. She thought it was pretty funny. Her excitement about this day is so contagious, so innocent, and so fun. And then the photograph is a picture of her as she's looking at her stocking. We didn't get a lot of photos that morning, partly because it's dark, right? So there's that, and so it's harder to take photos at work, but then also because we were just kind of in the moment, and so we just didn't get a lot of photos for that whole day because once we had this Christmas morning, then we went to my one true love's house and or his folks' house, and we celebrated with his side of the family because if you remember, we celebrated on the 23rd with my family. So if you've been following along with my journey here, you'll know that this was the last day that I'm documenting. This was the last celebration that we had as a family or at all. And so I just wanted to document it, but I had no photos. So I found one photo that wasn't too bad. And she's got kind of a funny little look on her face, and you'll be able to see it, I think, in the close ups. So, what I'm doing here is trying to find things that say the 2025 or the 25th. Originally, I thought I was going to use that December 25th acrylic piece that's from Colorcast Designs, as well as my 25, my number that I've been using all along with those gold numbers. Um, but I went, as you're going through the December daily, and you're going through all of the ephemera and stuff, you see all of these different things that have the 25th on them, or Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. And so, like, I knew there were things in there that I wanted to use. So I was just going through and pulling out all of the things that were 25 that might possibly work. And then I narrowed it down to a couple different things, and you'll see that in a second. So what I'm doing now is I'm using these black alphas to show who said what. So B stands for B, and C is the first initial in my One True Love's name, and D is my first initial. And so then the bottom one, there's only three of us, but there's four things. But the bottom one is just more universal. It's just kind of like the thing that every year is the coolest, and it shows joy. And then the other ones are very specific to this year. So there I'm mad because I pressed too hard. But I only have this little piece of paper, and I need to get joy is 4 times on there. And so, but it's all I have left of the scraps. So anyway, it ends up working. So I'm going to cut those out, and I'm going to add those above each one of the things. So it says joy is this, joy is that. So if you start at the bottom, so if you start at the top, this is what they say. It says, joy is playing with cousins. Bee and Lucius especially played with their new stuffed animals and enjoyed being creative together. Joy is Charlie giving Chris a guitar for Christmas. It was an exciting and unexpected gift, and definitely a highlight of the day. Joy is my mom joining us at the Bronze for the family Christmas. I hope this becomes a new tradition. And then the bottom one, which is kind of like the universal for every year, is joy is the look on Bee's face when she first walks out into the living room on Christmas morning. And so I knew that I wanted to do joy is, like from pretty much Christmas Day. When I realized I didn't have pictures, I'm like, that's okay. I can just do a little more journaling. And then I kind of took the idea, Allie Edwards does a lot of stuff like this where she repeats a prompt kind of. And I thought this would be the perfect day to do this and the perfect ending to my book. So I'm just toying with trying to figure out if I want some sort of a title on this. So these alphas here are gold, and there are from a Hip Kit club from last year, the Christmas kit from last year. They were a Hip Kit exclusive. But the black letters here are from the current kit that I got, that a lot of my album is using, especially in the beginning, was from Click Kits, and this is the alpha that came in the kit. So I'm toying with putting the word joy somewhere on that side. Besides all the joy is. And I'm trying to decide how I want to put it all in. So when I move my fingers like that, it's like I'm going, okay, I'm just going to give up on this side and come back to it later. And then I go back to it right away because I had another thought. And then my fingers will go up in the air again. There we go. I'm like, just forget it. I'm going to move on. I do that a lot. It's funny. I learned a lot about myself as a scrapbooker when I videotape these, because as I'm watching the videos back, I notice how much I move stuff around and how much I kind of talk to myself by moving my hands, not like literally out loud, although sometimes I do that as well, but how I just kind of move my hands like, oh, I'm disgusted. My body language shows, even though all you can see is my hands. So then I was like, oh, I need some black and white over on the other side, because there's so much black and white on the right with all of the typing, and then the black letters, and then the black joy is. I thought maybe I need black and white over there. So then I put joy over on that side, and I really like that, and that's going to end up staying there. Um, the other thing that I did here that I really liked is when I put the joy is, it's not exactly in the middle, but over on the right side, when I put those where, if you can see how it kind of comes to a point, the pattern on there comes to a point. As it comes to a point, that's where the joy is going to be centered, and then it'll be left justified for all of the typing. And since I was able to make those the same width, it worked out really well, and I like the way that, I really like this page in the end. And it's pretty simple, actually. There's not a lot of stuff on it, but I really like how this one turned out, and I like it as a perfect end to the book. So I'm gluing down some stuff that I know is going to stay. So that I decided on that 25 up at the top. It says December 25th. And I will eventually here put some stitching through the tag and through the word joy. The other thing that I'm adding here, these are from those same alphas, is I thought about putting those like bullets along each one of them. And then I decided, oh, if I just put that little black one, like asterisk or whatever, over on that last one, that works. Because I was troubled by the fact that that last one didn't have an initial by it, but yet I didn't really want to put something else there because it wouldn't make sense, etc. So I like the way that asterisk works. It's just a little another hint of black. Plus, it works perfectly as a visual triangle because I have two on the other page. So those two little pieces of black really help me feel better about the amount of black on the left side, but I end up adding a little bit more to make it a little bit better in a few minutes here. So the usual little tissue paper behind my photo, and I cut it off straight on the edges so there isn't any tissue paper coming off each of the two sides, but just the top and the bottom. Now I'm doing that stitching that I talked about through the 25 and through the word joy. And then I actually do a little bit more stitching too, but I think I do that off camera. I'm going to stitch a layer behind the photo here in a second. All right, so now I have a good idea of the left side and a good idea of the right side, and I mostly need to glue stuff down except for a couple little things. So I think right now I am looking for a little bit more black and white. So I thought I might cut that in half and put part of the circle above the picture and part of it below, and then I didn't like that idea. So now I'm looking through my scraps to try to find something that is black and white that I can put behind the photo to make it have a little bit more black and white on that side. So this is a cut apart sheet that is in the crepe paper collection from this year. And I thought, you know, with that black, I could just do that and it would just kind of be across the top and the bottom. But it was just a little big, so I decided against that. And then I found this paper from my stash, and honestly, I think I got it last year, but I don't remember what it's from. I don't remember if it's from the crepe paper collection that I had last year or if it was an exclusive from a kit club. I cannot remember. So, but I love it. And so it just adds just a little bit of wow to that side, gives it a little bit more black and white, and I really like the way this looks. So I just cut a couple strips. They're not even straight. And I'm going to add a strip above the photo and a strip below the photo. And I use my T-square ruler to kind of try to make them look straight, even though the paper that I cut isn't. But it doesn't really matter because it's all going to be hidden by the photo. So there's me trying to find my ruler, like I snap my fingers because that'll help. And then I'm going to move this so that it's straight. So then off camera, I'm going to use my sewing machine to make them, to sew them down, like just put a little zip through them so that then I can kind of make them come off the page a little bit. Does that make sense? Like I'm going to like rough it up on the edges a little bit. So I've done that. I don't know if you can see it. You'll be able to see it in the close-ups. And now I'm going to finish up the right side. I'm going to add the joy is right where those two lines meet. So it's like a little arrow, like I said, and then add the little journaling spots right underneath. And I'm using my T-square ruler again to kind of keep them all justified on the left, the same place, so that looks nice and even. And then the other thing I'm trying to decide here to finish it off is if I want to have some sort of title at the top. I like the idea of using this Merry Christmas because it had the gold on it, but I also didn't like it because it wasn't white. Everything else is so white, and that's just not quite white, which sometimes that doesn't bother me, but in this case it did, especially because the golds don't really match either. So I went back to this sheet, which I've cut apart and done all kinds of things with it, and I found Mary, and that's okay, but I like what I ended up with better. So I'm going to take the Mary off, and I grab the word jolly here in a second, and I'm going to cut the word jolly apart so that I have the J-O and the Y, which makes joy. And so I can still have kind of like joy as my title, but it also adds a little pop of gold at the top there. And that, my friends, is just about it. So thank you for following along on my journey. I really appreciate it. Here come the close-ups. Pretty simple page, but I like the way it looks. That's what it looks like up close for those little pieces and the joy and then the journaling. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you in my next video.